How's it going, everybody? Nerds Rising here, and welcome back to the Nerd Cave. In today's video, it is finally time to take a look at my push to Legend in this season. Now, this team over here on the left, guys, super strong. You may have seen it over on Human Catcherbug's channel. He put out a video earlier today featuring the team, and he's obviously like in the 3400 or something crazy, so really good battler. I strongly recommend you guys check out his video with this team if you haven't seen it. But I actually used this team last night for the first set of the new Sunshine Cup, and I managed to hit Legend from like 29, 24, I think is where I was at, to 30, 56 in just 5 sets of battles. So the team definitely did not fail me, and the reason I actually built the team was because I noticed that Dubwool was one of the higher rated normal types in this cup. And as many of you guys know, I really like Dubwool. I think it's super underrated. It has amazing moves, fast moves and charge moves, very bulky, and kind of uncommon as well, so it takes some people by surprise. Not really too many of them running around. But yeah, this thing is a beast, as you guys know, and Vigoroth, although it has struggled recently in the Open Great League due to all the Metachams and counters to it like Trevenant and Sableye, it is very good in this meta. So the double normal backline, and then of course the normal flyer on the lead, Pidgeot, one of my favorite flyers. Very spammy now with the wing attack. And to be honest, the fact that people like to bait so much with Feather Dance works out very well for me, because what I always like to do is just full send the Brave Bird on the lead, because 9 times out of 10 the opponent is probably going to expect the Feather Dance, and they do not often expect the Brave Bird right off the bat. So that is how I like to use that on the lead. We will be safe swapping Dubwool or Vigoroth pretty interchangeably. They're both very safe. It really just depends on the lead. Whichever has the worst matchup on the lead, I will typically bring that in and then save excuse me, the other one for the closer. So that's what we're going to be doing. As I have been doing for the last few videos and where I show a lot of battles, I am going to divide this into chapters so you guys can check out the different leads. Again, I only did 5 sets with the team, so it's not going to be as comprehensive as some of my other videos. But again, also, if you haven't seen Human Catcherbug's version of this team, I would go check that out because he is a very good battler as well. So without any further ado, let's get into the battles and see what this team can do for me. And by the way, if you're seeing my elo there and wondering why I'm at 2971, that is because the next day of battles after I hit Legend, I ran some insane spice with Shadow Typhlosion, and you guys will be seeing that video over on Calamonto's channel here probably in the next couple days. So if it's out by the time I get this video out, I will put a little link in the description and above my face. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the battles, and let's take a look at my Legend run, if I can figure out how to get this going. Okay, there we go. Alright, let's take a look, guys. So I'm going to divide this into chapters again, like I said, and I believe the first couple are Trevenant leads. Trevenant's not super common in this meta, but I did want to show it just because this game might seem like a pretty RPS hard counter lead, which obviously Pidgeot destroys Trevenant, but sometimes playing out these leads where you hard win the lead and the swap can be very difficult to maintain alignment, especially when you're playing against other Legends who are very good. As you see, this opponent brings in a Piloswine as the safe switch, and fortunately we get into this matchup with our Vig right away, and this is going to allow us to not have to tank 2 moves. If I'm a little slow on that swap, then he gets to 2 avalanches. And as you see there, we do take the switch advantage there in the mid game without using a shield. The opponent brings back in the Trevenant, and then they switch out into of course, an invisible Unova Stunfisk, which this glitch has been so annoying, guys. I don't know if you guys have been experiencing it as well, but just so much lag. Invisible Mons. Fortunately, I think I only froze maybe 2 or 3 times due to the Invisible Mon glitch. I think it did cost me maybe 1 loss, but for the most part, I was attacking normally. It just, the Mons were invisible and it was super annoying. So as you see there, they bring in the Unova Stunfisk. We still have alignment, but the nice thing is Dubwool just does very well in most neutral matchups. It's just so dang spammy with the body slams. And as you see here, we have now gotten their second shield, and now that we've gotten both of their shields, I can very safely just let my Dubwool go down and then save the shield for the Pidgeot. If I shielded there, I recognize that the opponent had a Seed Bomb loaded on their Trevenant, so if I would have shielded my double there, they could have come in and sniped the double, and then potentially gotten to a move on my Pidgeot. So instead, I saved the shield, and I'm able to shield their Discharge, Feather Dance to Stunfisk, and now I have basically a full health Pidgeot into their Trevenant. And unless the opponent is a Mad Lad running foul play, which they're not, we're going to take this game. And the opponent realizes it and surrenders. But he plays it out, makes it very close in the end. And sometimes those games are very tricky when, you know, you make one mistake and you lose switch, and I would have lost that game. So another Trevenant lead here in the second battle. This is the last of the really positive leads. And again, the opponent brings in something that our Vigoroth does very well against. But in my opinion here, the opponent makes a little bit of a mistake. Rather than building up to the nuke, he just goes straight for the Fire Punch. And now I can very comfortably just match them on energy. And I want to make sure that I get my Body Slam off at the same time as they're getting their move off, because if I let them get that second Fire Punch first, he may actually be able to double shield and then take switch. So I'm throwing on CMP. This is a quick attack Diggersby, so it's going to be 5 quick attacks to each Fire Punch. And by throwing on CMP, I maximize my energy and also don't allow the opponent to farm me down. So the opponent again brings back in the Trevenant. They're going to farm me all the way down. Bulldoze, terrible move, doesn't do that much. And the opponent has a Magcargo in the back. So this one is a lot more RPS than the last one. Really not too much the opponent can do. And here I'm just going to go straight Body Slam, because I'm recognizing that if the opponent debuffs me with a Rock Tomb, I want to get off some undebuffed energy before that happens. And I knew even if the opponent overheated there, I could very comfortably live an overheat and still do enough damage with the double to allow my Pidgeot to sweep the endgame, and that's exactly what happened. So GG to the opponent there. I believe the next couple leads are going to be against ground types. So the first one against Unova Stunfisk, really, really bad. Probably the worst lead you can see with a Pidgeot. I do bring in the double here rather than the Vigoroth, because Vigoroth has Bulldoze, so it will do better against the Unova Fisk in the endgame. Excuse me, guys. And as you see here, they're meeting our, after chipping us, they're meeting our double swap here with the Jumpluff. And you may have noticed as well that I actually went for the payback first. Despite the fact that Body Slam is more efficient, payback does more damage, and I knew that the opponent was going to let the first move go. So by landing that payback, I have put them into a range where we now maybe actually can make a play for switch advantage here. They actually shield my Body Slam, and then double is just so good that we actually simultaneously KO with that next double kick. So now it's a 50-50 call, and unfortunately I make the call wrong. I bring back in the Pidgeot to the Stunfisk, but the opponent has their own double in the back, and typically in even shields and energy, double just barely wins this matchup, but we're up a shield, and I should be able to take this, and the opponent actually lets that Body Slam go. And since they let that go, I can now actually commit to a full farm down, and I'm going to come out of this matchup with a lot of energy. And now it's going to be a baiting game here. Do they shield my bait? We will have to see. And they do shield the Body Slam bait. That's huge. And now I'm recognizing that they might actually outpace me. I did, I think, lose track of energy a little bit here. So rather than risking the Bulldoze, what I do here is I bank a Body Slam, and I know that the opponent is going to have to throw 2 charge moves basically to take me out here. And what I'm going to do here is just go straight for the Brave Bird, because once this Brave Bird lands, plus a couple more wing attacks, the opponent will actually be in Body Slam range. And the opponent is going to farm me all the way down since I Brave Birded, but my Vigoroth wins CMP. And despite probably the worst lead we could see, we managed to take that game. So very well played to the opponent. And I believe I do have another ground type lead as well, a Steelix lead, which you will see occasionally. I did see a handful of Steelix, and this time I bring in the double because, again, the Vigoroth is going to have better coverage for this in the endgame with that Bulldoze. So I bring in my softer of the 2 counters, and the opponent is going to chip me here and then bring in their own Vigoroth. And in this battle, guys, if you have not seen my videos before and seen the raw power of double, this battle is the perfect example of it, because we're debuffed and we're still gonna shield this up and then double kick them all the way down despite our debuffed attack and take switch advantage here. We live on like 3 HP, and now we have switch advantage, which means our Vigoroth is going to be aligned to this Steelix, and hopefully switch advantage is going to be all it takes to win us this game. So the opponent probably going to chip us and then switch out, so I'm expecting that. I'm getting ready to switch, and they're actually staying in here. And since they're staying in, I'm just going to full send the Bulldoze here because they're very likely going to call a Body Slam since they're low, and that's exactly what happens. And they have a Noctowl in the back. And you might be thinking that this is looking a little rough, but this is why I like Pidgeot, because Pidgeot with that Feather Dance, if you can get your Pidgeot locked into their last Mon to where they have no opportunity to switch out and reset the debuff, then basically this poor Noctowl, despite outbulking us, is just going to get Feather Dance to smithereens. We Feather Dance them once and then use our shield, and now that Sky Attack that just landed is a double debuff Sky Attack, and before they get another Sky Attack off, we're going to give them another 2-stage debuff. They're now fully debuffed by 4 stages, and this Sky Attack is going to do absolutely nothing. We tank it. At this point, there's really no reason for me to throw a charge move. It's just going to be a fast move beatdown to win this game, because this quad debuff Sky Attack doesn't even do half of our remaining health, and we're just going to fully counter them down, and the opponent loses with 2 shields. So that is the power of Pidgeot and Double, guys. And in this battle, we have a Shadow Swampert. And what you're going to see me do here, like I mentioned in the intro, everybody expects the bait. This opponent actually is going to shield, which I was blown away by, but I always just full send the Brave Bird and then switch out. And that's why I also like to run Pidgeot on the lead, because you can just throw the Brave Bird and then switch out to reset the debuff. So here, the opponent answers our Vigoroth with the Noctowl. I tried to CMP them to the Sky Attack, but they overfarm, and they actually play into another... Oh, no, they don't. They don't. I was thinking they played into a CMP tie here, but no, they're actually continually overfarming, and they actually let me get 2 Body Slams off. So I think the opponent definitely should have thrown their Sky Attack before I got to that second Body Slam, because they end up throwing anyway. They don't commit to the farm down, and now they've gotten themselves super, super low. And honestly, I'm totally fine here with just farming down with the Pidgeot and just saving my shields for the double, because I typically do on this team like to save my shields for the backline if at all possible. And again, the opponent's bringing back in the Swampert. They do have a lot of energy, and again, everybody loves to Feather Dance Shadows, especially when they're low, so I just full send the Brave Bird again. I take out the Swampert, and now they have their own Pidgeot, and this is a very difficult situation for them. First of all, Brave Bird wouldn't quite one-shot us, but if they Brave Bird and I shield, then they're in a very awkward situation, so I call the Feather Dance. Pidgeots love to Feather Dance, and we call it. At this point, even though we're debuffed, the opponent's in a very difficult position, and I think they realized it here that we were going to take that game, and they surrender. So GG there. And into the next battle, I believe we are going to be taking a look at some flyer leads now. Flyers were the most common thing I saw, and again, like I mentioned in the intro, I like to just over-farm slightly here on the Brave Bird and just full send it, because so many people like to bait that oftentimes the opponents don't shield, but some of these opponents actually did shield, maybe just because I'm in the 3000s elo and people are just a little bit better overall. So they do call my Brave Bird correctly there and they shield it. But now that they're down a shield, so I pivot into the Vigoroth there, and they actually meet our Vigoroth with a Quagsire. This is actually a pretty good matchup for Vigoroth, because one move does not KO a Vigoroth from full health, and the opponent cannot double up on moves here. So I actually call the Earthquake there, I live it, and I farm down, and I have enough residual energy here where I think if they bring back in that Noctowl, I should be able to make a Body Slam, and I do make a Body Slam. So this is looking pretty good for us here. I am actually going to bring in the Double here, because I'm expecting that their team comp is probably going to be similar to mine, maybe something weak to fighting or flying in the back. So what you're going to see here is I'm just going to bring the Double. I do shield once. I do want to maintain some health on the Double. Double actually can tank 2 Sky Attacks from a Noctowl, but I want to maintain some health, so I shield the first. I'm going to let the second one go, and I'm just going to get this Body Slam off right away, because I want to make sure that they don't make it to another Sky Attack. And we're going to have to see what they have in the back, and it's a Shadow Swampert, and the opponent is shieldless. And I actually can just let this Hydro Cannon go here, and yeah, we're going to Brave Bird this Swampert, and that is going to be a G to the G. So very well played there by the opponent. Unfortunately, they just didn't have the best answer for our Double or our Vigoroth safe swap there. And servers are trash. That username made me laugh. If you're watching this, bro, super funny name. And again, another Noctowl lead. I think I have like 2 or 3 Noctowl leads. It was just one of the most common leads that I saw. And again, we're going to play the same way. This time the opponent, I believe, actually did try to throw on CMP there. So that is why I always over farm, just in case they try to CMP time me, because then I'd be forced to shield that Sky Attack after being debuffed. And again, another invisible Pokemon comes in. This time it's a Vigoroth. So we are in even shields. They did not shield the Brave Bird this time. And the opponent here very wisely goes up to the back-to-back, but my counter does go through, and I recognize that, so I can shield and KO with that counter, and now I don't have to commit both shields there, so that's why I do that. And if they bring back in the Noctowl, which they do, they're pretty low, so they're going to have to give me some shields if they want to keep this thing alive. And we'll have to see, do they do that? And they actually do, and now I'm just going to let my Vigoroth go down. And what I probably will try to do here is come in with the Pidgeot. And of course, they're lagging, or I'm lagging. I don't know what's happening. I don't really know if they got ahead on energy there, but they end up bringing in an Obstagoon, but their Noctowl is still alive, so that's just super annoying, guys. I don't know if you guys are seeing this too, but I just cannot stand the state of this game right now. But they bring in an Obstagoon, and the very nice thing about this team is that a lot of people do have an answer for Vigoroth, just because it's so common, but most people don't have an answer for two fighting type normal, or normal type fighting quick move users in the back, because Vigoroth and Double have very similar coverage, and there's just not a lot of teams that are prepared for both. So the Obstagoon gets very low, I farm it down with the Pidgeot, and now we're going to take out the Noctowl, the invisible Noctowl, with a Feather Dance, and that's going to be a GG. So really annoying, but yeah, you guys are seeing some flyer leads. I believe I do have a couple Pidgeot leads as well. The Pidgeot mirror can be a little bit tricky. The crazy thing about this mirror is that actually a Pidgeot can live a Brave Bird from full health, even after a couple wing attacks. So I always, again, just full send the Brave Bird and no shield their move, recognizing that even if they do Brave Bird me, that I will just barely live it. So that's why I go for the Brave Bird in the mirror. And the opponent, as you saw there, Feather Dance, as they usually do, and then I land the Brave Bird, which still does a lot of damage despite them being debuffed. And now I'm going to safe switch into the Vigoroth, and they meet it with a Noctowl. So they're running a double normal flyer, but not in an ABB style team. They're running like an ABA normal flyer team. So I'd be really interested to see how this opponent would play out like a Unova Stunfisk lead. But either way, Vigoroth actually has a pretty nice Noctowl matchup as well. The same as the double. They both actually, I believe, do narrowly win the one shield. So I do some damage, I get a shield, and now I'm more than happy to just let my my Vigoroth go down and save shields for the double in the back. And we'll have to see, are they going to bring back in their own Pidgeot? And they do not. They actually have a G-Fisk in the back, which is not super common in this meta, but I have seen a couple of them, and since I have two shields, I am absolutely going to be calling the Rock Slide bait. They bait, and here I make a big mistake. I should have just thrown right away, but I overfarm, and this is going to allow them to get off another Feather Dance, and it's a CMP tie. So I fully no-bubble this, and that does actually allow me to get in one more double kick, which is very nice. But now I'm debuffed and I'm switch locked in, so I'm going to throw this Body Slam right away because I don't want to throw a ton of energy since I'm so debuffed, and this will help burn my switch clock long enough so that I can get out of this matchup, shield, and then my switch clock should be up and I can get into this Pidgeot to reset my debuff. Now, obviously this is not a good matchup, but Pidgeot can actually survive this Rock Slide, and we're going to go straight for the Brave Bird here. The opponent is definitely not going to shield this, but this should just about put the G-Fisk into double Body Slam range, and it also debuffs my attack immediately, or my defense, excuse me, so that way the opponent's not going to get as much energy from their Mudshot farm down. So they actually don't throw on CMP there, so that because of that, I recognize that double would win CMP, so I'm actually able to get in one more double kick worth of damage, and now this is definitely going to be Body Slam range. And we're going to take this G-Fisk out, and that's going to be a GG. So, well played to the opponent again. As you see, we are climbing up. We're at Legend now, and I believe we do have another Pidgeot lead here. And this one is going to be a little bit different because the opponent actually goes for the Brave Bird in this matchup, and I actually win CMP, which you would think would be what you want to have happen if you're throwing the Brave Bird. But as you see there, they live the Brave Bird. I'm going to call a Feather Dance, as I always do, but this time they actually Brave Bird. So even though they lose CMP, they actually win that matchup there, going straight Brave Bird, and they safe switch out into a Vigoroth. And as I mentioned before, Double does narrowly win this matchup in the one shield, but I'm typically not going to be committing both shields. I usually do just play out the ones, and if they decide not to shield, then I will take this matchup here. So They no shield the first, do they shield the second, and they do shield the second. And at this point, I am more than happy to just take my shield advantage if they don't want to commit their shield on this one. And they actually do commit the shield here. So now, I don't want to let them farm me down, so I aggressively bring in my own Vigoroth, recognizing I can shield and then get a nice energy lead. And what are they going to have in the back? They actually have a Hisuian Electrode. So the interesting thing about this matchup is one Wild Charge does not KO. So what I was doing there is massively over farming because I wanted them to throw and then me throw my Body Slam. And they actually tried to catch. And because I over farmed there, I do not allow the catch. And now my Vigoroth should just narrowly survive this Wild Charge. And we have so much energy, we can just immediately click on our next Body Slam. And that's going to be a GG. So well played to the opponent there. A little bit tricky endgame. Hisuian Electrode is a pretty cool pick. And what you guys are going to see over when Callum shoutcasts my spicy battles, I actually do run Hisuian Electrode along with the Shadow Typhlosion. So I believe this is the last of the flyer leads here. We have a Rufflet, which I actually did see a few of. Pretty cool spice pick. I believe this is pretty excelled as well. And again, guys, I do not like to bait. I just full send the Brave Bird. And the opponent, recognizing that they have a pretty glassy Mon, just lets it go and they get one-shotted. And now they have a Glice, or a, what's this one called? Whatever the pre-evolution to Gliscor is, I can't think of it at the moment. Gligar. They have a Purified Gligar. And I recognize here that I'm down shields, so they're very likely not going to bait, and they do full send the return. And you guys may be thinking, like, it's a little risky to go down 2 shields, but in this situation, if you look at how much health I have remaining, I have 3 very healthy Mons still, and despite them having 2 shields, we just out-health them right now. They have already lost their lead Pokemon, and they're going to have to dump all their energy here to take out my Vigoroth. And they actually are forced to expend both shields to take out my Vigoroth. So, despite going down shields early, I immediately get both of the shields back. And now, the opponent has a huge health disadvantage. They do make a very nice catch here onto I believe on a regular Ninetales. But I recognize here that since they're energy dry, I can very safely over-farm here, win CMP on the Brave Bird to their Weather Ball. And now, their Gligar is going to have to Night Slash me right away. And this is going to allow my double to outpace them to another return. And honestly, I don't even think a return would KO my double from this range, because double is the GOAT, if you guys have not figured that out by now. And for some reason, they throw the Night Slash there. Not really sure why, but yeah, this is going to be a GG. And I believe I have maybe like 2 or 3 more battles for you guys. I think maybe 2 more looking at the time here. So hopefully you have enjoyed this. As you see, we're sitting at 30-10 in this battle. And we have a Victini lead, which I did see a couple of Victinis. Not super common. I definitely think if you do want to run Victini, you should run it on the lead, because it is kind of awkward to use since both of its moves do debuff you. And the opponent V-creates, I shield it, and they switch into a Credilli. I was hoping to grab a shield here, but again, the opponents are just always expecting you to Feather Dance, especially when they bring in a Mon, because they're going to be switch locked in, so it would make sense to Feather Dance there, but in my mind, it always makes more sense to land the big damage. And now, they're going to come back in with their Victini, and I'm just going to full send the Bulldoze again. Not worth the bait, in my opinion. They do shield it, so maybe you could argue I should have baited, but I always just think it's safer to full send the nuke in situations like that, because I do end up making a Body Slam as well, and that gets them very low, and they actually have an Abomasnow in the back. And this is now going to be a GG, because Abomasnow definitely does not want to see a double. They actually let that Body Slam go as well. And now I can just tank all this energy. And I forget if I decide to farm down. I think I actually might throw the Body Slam. Yeah, just because their Victini is so low, there's no reason to let my double go down here when I can just basically come in with a double here, force them to V-create me, and I still have a shield, so I can just basically farm them all the way down with the Pidgeot there. So that's going to be a GG. I probably could have even called the V-create there and lived it, but just to be safe, I shield, farm down, and I believe we're moving into the very last battle. And this very last battle, by the way, we're at 30-28 here, and I believe this is the set that got me to 30-56. So super, super crazy Spice Lord here. Shadow Jumpluff on the lead, and they bring in a Shadow Steelix as their safe switch. And again, people love to call baits in the high elos, so I don't bait. I full send the Bulldoze. We take out the Steelix, and now their Jumpluff has a lot of work to do, because Jumpluff despite being a shadow here, still does not hit super hard. So they may actually have to send the acrobatics to take me out here, and the opponent actually over farms massively, and they play into a CMP tie, and they're going to have to take 2 body slams now. And yeah, at this point, an energy ball definitely would KO, so they probably will just go for the energy ball. And I think they actually undercharge it there very nicely and get 2 extra quick moves, but Pidgeot here has a dominating matchup. Acrobatics will hurt, but I do not have to shield this. And what's in the back? It's actually a Shadow Moltres in the back, so super scary. This is actually a time where I definitely will Feather Dance, because they kind of have to shield. They're so glassy. And now Double has a lot of work to do here. I think I do call the Ancient Power bait here, and it is the Ancient Power, but I'm not sure. An Overheat, despite them being 2-stage debuffed, would probably still do massive damage. So I no-shield the Ancient Power, and now I'm definitely going to be shielding this move. And is it going to be another Ancient Power? Probably. As you see, they actually did boost as well, which is a little bit scary, but this is just going to be a GG at this point. Unfortunately for the opponent, despite them running some crazy spice, our Double is just going to take this game. I actually do decide to shield it here, just because I know they're going to have to dump energy right away if they want to take me out. And yeah, when they did that, I would just farm them down with the Pidgeot. So very good game in that battle. I believe I do have a little treat for you guys here in the end as I'm doing my outro. We're going to take a look at my Pikachu Libre collection while we're doing the outro here. But yeah, if you guys are looking for a very strong Sunshine Cup team, I would strongly recommend this team. Again, it's not going to be the spiciest or most unique team you've ever seen, because there are a ton of people out there running Vigoroths, tons of Pidgeots, tons of Noctowls, but not too many doubles. If you don't have a double, just because I know there's people out there that don't have many Wooloos, so weren't able to make a double, I think you could pretty safely substitute Obstagoon for double in this situation. In the Open Great League, I don't think it's quite as good of a switch out for the double, but in this meta, Obstagoon is pretty safe as well. You would just want to use Vigoroth as the safe switch if you're going to run this team with the Obstagoon instead of the double. So, that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, just 5 sets with the team, but I did go up 125 elo to hit Legend. And if you want to see some more battles with the team, definitely check out Human Catcher Bug's version of this team. And that being said, thank you again for everyone who has subscribed recently. And if you are not subscribed, please consider doing so, because the more subscribers we can get, the more Pokemon my wife will let me play.